All right, everyone. For my next review, I'm going to do the 1986 film Slaughter High. I actually just had a really good review going on and realized that I didn't have my webcam going for about 15 minutes. So I'm going to try to redo it here, maybe even do a little bit better than I did the first time. So this film was directed by somebody named George Dugdale, who never really did anything except for this, which he wrote and directed, and then a film called Living Doll from 1990, which I've never heard of. His wife was the lead actress in this film. I don't. They weren't married at the time. They did get married in 1990, but it might explain why she was casted in this role. I don't know if they knew each other, if they met on the film or what. But when this was filmed, this girl was 37 years old, casted as a high school student. So and she doesn't look young either. I mean, she looks like she's in her 30s for sure. And she's average at best, by the way. I mean, she wasn't terrible, but as far as final girls go, yeah, not very good. So I knew I recognized this case. I mean, I knew I must have walked by it in the video store growing up hundreds of times, and I thought I'd seen it at some point. But after just watching it, it didn't ring a bell at all. So I don't think I've seen it, or I don't think I had seen it in the past. And I did have high expectations for this film. It's rated high on Amazon. I haven't watched the reviews, but some other YouTubers have reviewed it, and judging by their titles, it didn't give any hints that it was going to be bad. I guess for me, it was just okay. And this review will contain spoilers. So, beginning of this film, you got a girl who's the lead actress, the director's soon-to-be wife. She's leading this geeky kid named Marty into the shower, telling him that they're gonna get it on. It's an April Fool's prank. So as she's leading him into the shower, all these other students, they got a camera set up, and all these other different little jokes they're gonna play on him. So Marty kid's in the shower. He gets naked. She's outside. She's telling him what to do. And then as he pulls it open, then he's like, "Here's Marty. He's completely naked." They're recording him on camera. They pull all these jokes on him. A couple guys pick him up, take him over to the toilet. They're giving him a swirly. The gym teacher comes in and breaks it up, and then they're like mad at him, like thinking that he got him in trouble because because the gym teacher wants to punish him. So then you cut forward a little bit more, and while they're being punished, one of the students sneaks off to the chemistry lab while he's in there preparing something and puts some of the wrong chemical in. So it ends up blowing up and catching fire. And then while Marty's trying to put the fire out, there's a giant jar of hydrochloric acid up on a shelf high. Why you put hydrochloric acid up there on a shelf like that in a glass jar like that, I have no idea, but whatever. The glass jar falls, it breaks, it splashes all over his face and burns them. And you can tell while they're wheeling him out, all the students are there watching, and you can just tell he's going to be horribly disfigured. So then the film cuts forward 10 years. The lead actress, director soon to be wife, she plays an actress in the film, and she's talking to her agent, and he's trying to give her a crappy role. And she says, "I'd rather go to my reunion than take on this crappy role." And she's talking to a girl named, I believe it was Susan. And I'm not really going to get into the characters' names much because they're really not memorable. And that's okay because in a film like this, where you got this many characters, you know that you don't really need character development. They're pretty much all just getting built up for the slaughter. So, I might not remember all their names, but I know this girl's name was Susan. She shows her a ring and she says, I'm getting engaged. I have to meet his parents tonight. I'm going to be late. So, the main actress, she ends up going to the reunion. The other cast of characters start pouring in. A couple of them are now married. One of them skipped the class clown. His car breaks down. He runs into somebody else. They end up getting towed in by the married couple, and people just, they're showing it one by one. So they get to the school, and the school's been shut down. The school's completely vacant, empty. The school's been shut down for, I guess, 5 years now. Now, I understand this was 1986. They didn't have the internet. They didn't have, they're pretty much just relying on postal mail for everything. And that's okay. Oh, come here, kid. Oh, my little dog came over to check out my review. So I understand that 1986, they don't have a way maybe as easily as now as to find out the school was closed. But you would think since they all live in a general close vicinity, they would know that the school has been closed for 5 years and completely vacant. But they get these invitations, they show up. Only the ones that were involved in the accident come to the reunion. So They get to the reunion. They can't get in because the school's locked and vacant. They end up finding a way in. And I believe I read somewhere this film was produced by the same people that produced Friday the 13th. I believe I heard that. I could be wrong. I'll double check and edit this if I'm wrong. But there is the two guys that get into the school. There's a Jason reference where they put a hockey mask on and scare some girls. And they're like, oh, who do you think I was? Jason? So, yeah, there was a reference to Friday the 13th. And there's more as I'll get into later. So then they all get into the school. And they end up finding a room that's been prepared for them. There's a welcome back. And each of them have their old lockers set up in the room. And every one of the lockers has like an old artifact in it. Like one person had a pair of shoes, one girl had a pair of gloves that came up missing or stolen at prom. And so that they all have an artifact. And Marty, the geek from the beginning, his locker's there too, with a yearbook that says, well, actually it was new. They opened it up and it was Marty's old yearbook. So there's still a connection to Marty being there. Then they reminisce a little bit on the accident, and one of the girls, they're partying for a little bit. They're doing coke. They're smoking weed. They're drinking. One of the girls says she has to pee. The other girl's like, I'll go with you. She's like, I don't want to go alone in this dark, scary school. So the other girl goes with her. A couple of the guys sneak off to scare her, and they run into the caretaker of the school. He used to be the janitor. You saw him briefly in the beginning of the film. Now he's the caretaker. They tell him, hey, we're just here for the reunion. He says, I don't care if you look around, but just don't break anything. Don't burn the place down. It's going to be, or he says, don't burn the place down. It's going to be getting tore down in a month. So have your last little bit of fun. They give him a beer. The caretaker wanders off and they wander off. Now, this is the first kill. The killer comes out. The caretaker picks him up, takes him, and slams his head into a hanger on a door. It kind of reminded me a little bit of the kill in Halloween 6, The Curse of Michael Myers, the first kill, where he put the lady's head on a spike. And I'll give this film a little bit of credit because this did come 10 years before that. So maybe that's where they got it from. I don't know. It just reminded me of that anyway. So that was the first kill. Then they get up to the top. They continue partying, doing drugs, whatever. And now this one guy, he goes to get a beer and slam it like he used to do. So he cuts a hole in the can and he starts slamming it. And as soon as he slams it, he's like, oh, his stomach's hurting. Then his stomach starts bubbling. And then it breaks open and just explodes all over this one girl. Pretty good effect. I mean, it was pretty detailed, pretty graphic, pretty good. I'll give it some props. That was a pretty good practical effect there. Definitely don't see them like that anymore. So the other ones, they know that something's going on now. They know there's like a killer. So they run off to try to get out of school. And the girl that just got blood sprayed all over her, she goes and she finds a bathtub to take a bath. So the other ones that run away now, they realize that there's no way out of the school. All the doors are jammed shut. The windows now, well, they're all barred up anyway, but now they're all electrified. So they touch them, they get shocked. One kid, he's like, hey, let me try. So he gets up and he starts kicking the windows. And finally, he kicks enough space for him to jump out. He jumps out. And, well, the girl, the girl, the lead actress, she's kind of rich, so she has a nice car. She throws him the key. She's like, here, take my car. It'll start every time on the first try. So he goes out and he runs to her car. Of course, predictably, it won't start. And predictably, the killer's in the back seat, stabs him through the seat. Pretty generic. You really don't see anything. Kind of kill you've seen a while. A bunch of times in horror movies, just stabbed through. And then the car starts and they think it's him and he starts driving. Then he turns around and goes back and turns the headlights on. And then you can see the guy's body is now propped up back against the fence. So then now they for sure they know there's a killer now because this guy's dead. Then they hear the girl that went to go take a bath. She's screaming now. And then it cuts over to her and the water goes from clear to brown. And I guess it's acid. So, and I don't know why, this part's kind of silly because why would you just not jump out of the tub? Like if acid starts, you'd still be able to get out of the tub. But for some reason, despite the fact acid's pouring in from the faucet, she doesn't turn it off. She just stays in the tub while acid keeps coming out and burning her to death. I mean, again, cool makeup effects on this. I mean, you could tell she was getting burned and everything, but I don't know, just one of them scenes where you're like, really? Come on, get out of the damn tub. You know what I'm saying? Then let's see. After that, they're all just hanging out. One of them gets the idea that they're gonna go try to get this. They call it a tractor. They want to go try to fix this tractor so they can drive out of the school. Which I didn't really understand this either because the tractor is really more like a riding lawnmower. And I don't know how getting this started would really have helped them at all anyway. Because this thing's not like big enough to like drive through a wall or anything. Like when they said tractor, I thought they meant like an actual tractor you could just like go to the school with. But no, this is basically just a riding lawnmower. So then one guy, he's mechanically inclined, and they're like, "You think you can get it running?" And then he's like, "Oh, give me an hour." So they leave this guy alone, despite the fact that they all know there's a killer loose. They just leave this guy alone to work on the lawnmower tractor, but it's really a lawnmower. So you know he's gonna get killed later with the lawnmower. That's they're setting it up for that for sure. So they run off. He was the mechanically inclined one is the one with the wife that towed the other people into town later. So then they go up, and this guy's wife now she tells this other guy, I believe his name was Frank. She starts telling him how she's always liked him and she wishes it was him and how their kid is really his kid. And they go up and she ends up, they get it on. They're, so she's cheating on her husband with this guy. They're up there, they're getting it on and whatnot. Cuts back over. You got the guy working on the lawnmower, and the killer comes, takes the jack out from under the lawnmower. Because of course, when the killer comes in, the guy has the lawnmower jacked up, and he's under it trying to fix it. So killer comes, removes the jack. So the guy's sitting here holding the lawnmower up, struggling, trying to keep it up. Killer starts the lawnmower, so apparently it's working now. Starts the lawnmower, turns the blade on, the blade starts spinning. He comes over, he cuts the guy's forearms, so he can't hold it up no more, and as it comes down, it chops him up. You really don't get to see that much. You just get to see some blood squirt all over his face. But again, decent kill, but just the scene itself, I don't know, average. Below average, really, but whatever. So they go back up now. The one couple's still getting it on. His wife, the guy that just died, his wife, and this other guy, Frank. So they're getting it on, and then the killer somehow attaches electric to the bed. So now when the lady grabs the bed rail, it starts shocking the hell out of her, and so it kills them. And now you're only down to what 3 characters now in the film. You got Skip and you got the 2 girls, and for some reason they want to try to if they make it till noon on April Fool's Day, then it's not April Fool's Day no more. I don't get the logic behind that. I've never maybe I've just something I've never heard of before. But I didn't know April Fool's Day ends on noon on April Fool's Day. So this is pretty much the final act that we're working up to now. They go into a room, and the Skip guy, he's like, "Hey, if we just all pin ourselves back up against the wall and don't fall asleep and make it till noon, then we should be okay." And the whole time they think it's the Marty guy. They're building the Marty nerd guy up the whole time. And to me, it looked like the Marty guy was a red herring to this point. Like I didn't think it was going to be him. And my guess would have been the Susan character from the beginning because she did show up. I actually forgot to talk about that. Now, she did show up late, and then they're trying to yell to her, like, "Oh, Susan showed up," and somehow she got into the school and they couldn't notify her, and then she just kind of cut off. I think, so either she runs into the killer or you think it's just a setup. And at first I thought, well, maybe it's her because just her not being there on time and I'll show up late. I just thought maybe it was her. That would have been my guess. So she does show up. So she's still kind of MIA at this point. And then the 3 of them are just like, "Hey, let's just sit back here and wait until noon. And then the killer can't get us no more after noon." That was the logic they were going with. So of course they fall asleep. I mean, you've just seen all these people get murdered savagely, but then you can just so easily fall asleep. Like all 3 of them just fall asleep at the same time. Like, come on, that was. So the Skip guy wakes up and he goes out into the hallway, and the killer manages to snatch him. So then it's just the 2 girls left. Then they wake up, and then they're like, "Oh, where's Skip? Let's go find Skip." So then they go to find Skip. And the killer takes Skip and hangs him. But as he's hung, as the killer walks away, Skip fights and struggles, and the rope comes loose, and he falls down, and you don't see Skip again for a while. So the 2 girls, they're going around, and they're searching for Skip and they find a yearbook. And the one girl, I believe her name was Nancy, she sees her picture in Marty's yearbook and it has a cross through it. So she's like, oh no, Marty's going to kill me. I'm next. So she runs and she gets out of the school. And now the door's wide open now because she's able to just easily run right out of the school. And she goes to run away. And then the killer shows up and she ends up falling in this watery pit. And the killer shows up and just puts his foot on her head and kills her. That's probably the worst kill of the film right there because that was pretty lame. So then it goes back now, and the killer's now chasing the lead actress. She's trying to escape. She keeps running into the girl's locker room over and over. You know, your typical end of the movie chase scene. It did last a while. And like I said, I believe this movie was made by people that produced Friday the 13th or something. They had something to do with it because there was the Jason reference. And during the final act, as the killer is chasing the girl, you keep hearing the Halloween score. I mean, not the Friday the 13th score. And you hear even little things like in the background and stuff. So I'm pretty sure they was using the same score or similar score, and they were using the same kind of sound effects that they did in Friday the 13th. But those were far superior films than this. So you got that going on. And then, so Skip, I guess he woke up from after he recuperated from falling on the ground after being hung, because he did have a pretty decent fall, so maybe he got knocked out or something. So she thinks it's the killer coming after her, but it's really the Skip guy, and she has a hatchet, and so she hatches the Skip guy in the face. Decent, decent practical effect. Cool little scene. Stabbed, hatcheted him in the face, killed him. So then she's all tore up about that, and she's running away. The killer's still chasing her, and she goes into the shower. Not sure why she'd pin herself in the shower. The killer comes, opens the shower curtain. Oh, yeah, as she's running away, too, she sees her friend Susan from the beginning, comes down, her dead body comes down from the ceiling, so Susan's gone. She pins herself back into the shower. The killer comes, pulls the shower back, takes his mask off, and it's the Marty guy with the burned face, and he stabs her with a spear, like a javelin type spear. So she's dead, and the Marty guy just starts laughing hysterically. And this is the part of the film. For one, I don't like the fact that Marty was the killer. I mean, they were building him up the whole time to be the killer. But to me, it just felt like a red herring. And I'm not just mad either because I didn't guess who the killer was. It's like it was really obvious that he was the killer. I was just hoping that there would be some other type of twist or something to it besides the fact that he was the killer. Because that was just, why even wear a mask? Like in my opinion, like why? Like if it's just gonna be the same guy you've been building up to be the whole time, you might as well just had Marty going around with this grotesque face out all the time killing everybody. Like I don't understand why you were hiding him. But anyway, so this is the part of the film where you don't know if it's reality or if it was all just this fantasy from Marty. Because Marty goes away, he's laughing hysterically, and then all of a sudden he starts hearing voices, and all the students that he just killed or came back, and they're like zombies now, and they're chasing him, and then they're like backing him out in the corner trying to get him and tease him like they did before. And then all of a sudden Marty's in a hospital bed. So you don't even know at this point, like, was this whole film just a figment of his imagination? Was it a dream? Is he a lunatic now? They kind of, one of the guys was telling a story earlier that he could have been a lunatic in a insane asylum at this point. So you don't know. Was all this real? I don't know. The film really doesn't give you that. And then so the film ends with Marty in bed, and some nurse comes over to help him, and then the nurse light in the hospital room starts going off. So a doctor goes over to help, and as the doctor goes over, and he thinks it's the nurse, Marty's now wearing the nurse's outfit, and he turns around and he stabs the doctor in the eye with the needle, and then it shows Marty's face, and I guess he just had this skin graft surgery or something, so then he's like ripping his skin off his face, and that's how the film ends. Again, not a terrible film, just for me, the whole lead up of who the killer was, and it turned out it was just him. I didn't like that. I mean, it was just too straightforward for me. I like a little bit of a twist, if you're building the guy up to be a red herring the whole time, have a different killer. If it would have had a different killer, I would have liked the film more. But then again, acting wasn't very, very good. The directing wasn't very good. Just a really average film. Cool case though. I don't know how this film is so popular, how it gets rated so highly. Honestly, like for me, if I had to rate this film, I'd go 1.5 to 2 stars. For me, it just wasn't anything special at all. Just your typical time waster. I'll probably never watch it again. I mean, it's the type of movie you get through once, and that's pretty much it. Some of the effects were cool. I'll give it that, but the actual story, the acting, and everything else that have to go along with this film just weren't very good in my opinion. So yeah, 1.5 to 2 stars, depending on what type of day it is for me. Honestly, right now, if you had to say, hey, where's your rating? Just straight up, I'll say 1.5. I just really didn't do anything for me. But that's it. That's my review for Slaughter High from 1986. Thanks for watching.